Dawid, okay, so welcome to the program. As you know, we've been doing a series of talks with Nel and with various people whose lives have intersected with those of Nel, either as a colleague or as a friend or as a mentor or as just a fellow art lover. And today the conversation is with you. And I guess the conversation with you are based on two things. One, you're an artist yourself. And secondly, you also have been Nel's art dealer for quite a long period of time. So maybe we should start by asking the very obvious question, and that is, how did your life intersect with Nel's? How did you get to know her, and how did she become your client?
I met Nel Erasmus through my friend Rian Vivier, and that was, I think, about 15 years ago. He said he needed a painting for his office. And he is now going to pick up Nel Erasmus, and we're all going to go to Pasquale Tarazona, the other artist, and we are going to make a painting for his office. So Nel, myself, and Pasquale were together, and then Nel said, of course, we all got to contribute to this painting. So we've all got to make a mark on Rian's painting. So I said, I don't know anything about art, and there I've got to correct you, Frank, I'm not an artist, so I didn't know. So Nel said, no, come here. And she took my hand, and she put her hand on top of my hand, and she made a mark on the paper. That is so engraved in my mind, that hand of hers on top of my hand, that feeling, that strength, and that I can also still see in her paintings up to today, that final mark that she makes on the paper, that is very much in that first time that I met her, and the first time she helped me to make a mark on Rian's painting. So from there, and there I must also go back a little bit to my own story in terms of me dealing in art. Originally, I didn't have a specific gallery space. I was exhibiting in different places, different spaces. I took artworks to the different arts festivals, Kaka and Ka, etc., etc. And then, and I actually saw that the very first exhibition where I took some of Nel's works to was an exhibition in Durbanville. And I've actually still got the invite here, and it so happened that it's an invite with one of her horses, the famous horses with the energy, movement, and power. And this exhibition happened in April 2006. And I quickly want to read the back where I said, please, a selection of smaller works by great artists. That is what my little tagline for that exhibition. And yes, it turned out to be very much the truth about great artists. In 2007, I finally got a space where as from then onwards, I used to do exhibitions. And I thought, who else but to ask Nel Erasmus to be the first person who opened my official gallery space. Up to that point, I used to call myself David's Choice Exhibitions, but some of my other artist friends thought, no, it's got to be more professional, it's got to be Dawid Ras Exhibitions. So then with the first, I decided to do my first exhibition, first opening, that was in 2007, and this is saying is the openings on Saturday, Margaret McKean and Nel Erasmus. The two of them exhibited here together. On the one side was Nel, and then the other side was Margaret's painting. Now, the reason why I've asked him, Nel suggested Margaret because they've been friends for many years, and in a way, I also think that also reflects a bit about Nel herself, how she always wants to share and get other people that she also reckons involved in things. So yes, so that was in 2007. I had the exhibition with Nel Erasmus here, and I thought, seeing that she's an artist with definitive clout and acknowledgement, by getting her to do the first exhibition at my gallery space, also gave my gallery a bit more of a recognition. That was in 2007, and so I got to know Nel better and better over time. Somewhere along the line, she mentioned that through all the years, while she was even at the National Gallery, at the Johannesburg Art Gallery, she will forever, when there was an opportunity to go to Egypt, things always went wrong. And we decided, so why don't we go to Egypt now? So Nel and myself, my friend Salmon, and Nel's very good friends, Dr. Millie Rink, who I think also played quite a serious role in Nel's career. The four of us decided to go to Egypt, and that was in 2008. And the why, and if you talk about Nel and what an interesting person she is, I can still remember two things about that specific trip. The one is with her being vegetarian, and now we're driving up and down in Cairo, trying to find the place where you can all eat, and these weird and wonderful things that we all in the end ate because we were scared to eat the meat that we saw lying in the street. And then the very last day, some of these big plinths that they erect in Egypt on the landscape, now being even a little bit not feeling that well, but strong person, she's going to go and see each and everything. So therefore, she will experience each and everything. Yeah. Back to South Africa, and that was my next exhibition with her. Was when she turned 80. We called the exhibition Nel Erasmus, Flight, Flowers and Urns. And the little paragraph saying, Nel is 80. We chose 3 of the recurring themes from her painting career to give you the opportunity to get to know her better. And that was in May, the year that she turned 80, 2009. And when I say here, when we say to get her to know her better, because in the end, the artists does get reflected in their works. So yes, by looking at Nel's paintings, you also get to know her. And all those things I actually think is made it special for me to be part of her, of having her as an artist exhibiting at my gallery. I've even said to some of my friends, and Nel herself often laughed at me when I say, I think I can always look at the artworks later, but I can only talk to her now. And I think that is a very important thing because, again, the paintings and the artist is actually so linked and wonderful to get to know. Numbers is something that's quite important in Nel's life. At times she say, yes, this number, that date, that month, etc., is important to her. Now, I just discovered the other day that her first exhibition in South Africa was in 1957, and exactly 50 years down the line, her first exhibition at my gallery, 2007, was 50 years down the line. So yes, if those numbers does make sense to know, so yes, I'm quite thrilled that I could be part of that. I can be part of her life in that sense. This last exhibition that I spoke about, the one from 2006, that was called Flood, Flowers and Urns, that was when she turned 80. Now, yes, in 2018, we had a 90th birthday exhibition here at my place. That was 10 years down the line. And while the one from 2006, when she turned 80, was called Flight, Flowers and Urns, the one in 2018 was called Power, Energy and Motion. So it's, in a way, one almost feels it could have been the other way around, but she's actually getting stronger and stronger over the years. So at 90, you can still refer to the power, energy, and motion. Not only refers to the horses, but also to her energy and power, and forever ready to move and experience things. What I must also mention, I think, in the process, because apart now from these big solo exhibitions that I had of her here, she always saying that I'm good at matching people to paintings, or to think who would look like what. So yes, apart now from the solo exhibitions, I've also introduced her to a few specific clients who I thought might like her work. And in the process, there are some of her works ended up in Germany, some of her works ended up in with a guy from the American consulate who's now in the Emirates. Some of her works are in Belgium. And I think part of that had to do with the fact that, as I say, I've introduced her to a few extra people. Apart now from the exhibitions here, when I did exhibitions in different places and spaces. Like Johan Rood is a firm fraternity in Johannesburg, Rood Incorporated. Their tagline is the art of law, and we had I had a space there where for many years I've kept some works, quite a few of her works as well. He's also a big fan of her works. There's also Baker and McKenzie. They've got some of her works in their offices. So yes, I think in that process, I've taken it to many places.
Maybe it's a good time to ask you a question on that, and then you can we can continue down this journey. Because the one thing for me that struck me about Nel's work is that in all the years since she practiced in art, and since the first exhibition, as you say, at the Lichtje Gallery in 1957. Nel has always stayed with abstraction. And as you know very well as an art dealer, is that the market in South Africa for abstract works is not as big as it should be. I think there's an underappreciation generally for abstract artists. I don't know if you would agree. So, and the second thing about Nel's work is that it really tackles universal themes. There's nothing particularly South African about Nel's works. For me, it's like she's tapping into core universal themes and powers, like you say, energy, speed, motion, the object thing. The combination of those few things, I guess it must have added an extra challenge in marketing Nel's work, because once you get her work, it's so immensely powerful that you would think everyone would want to buy it. But at the same time, I think a lot of South Africans are still very much on the learning curve when it comes to appreciating quality and appreciating the power of abstraction. So can you maybe comment on that, Dawid, and how you tackled that challenge in marketing Nel's work, given the sort of assumptions that I've made about the market and everything else?
Yes, I would like to say a few things. In a way, I'm not always sure that it's just in South Africa. I think it's even a bigger universal thing that people think, of course, people like pictures or paintings that they can recognize what it is. It's more easy for them. But yes, at the same time, the moment, for instance, what I've often done with Nel's works, especially with the jockeys and the horses, is to say to people, look here, if you look carefully, you'll see a jockey on the horse back here. And the moment you've said that, then people think, oh yes, maybe I must look at the others. Maybe I can spot another horse, or I can spot another jockey. So the moment that you get the client or the potential client to interact with the painting, then they get more and more interested. And so yes, hopefully they get another appreciation of the work. At the same, we always, in a way, where I find interesting how Nel actually a few years ago, that was the only themed exhibition I ever had at the gallery that I called this Black Swan exhibition. And what happened is one day, out of the blue, I got a phone call from a shop in Kramerville selling fake antique furniture. And they said, have I by any chance got a picture of a black swan? And my first reaction was, no, definitely. I thought, what kitsch. I'm not that type of gallery keeping black swan paintings. But then I had a second thought, and I thought, maybe I must just find out a bit more. And the long and the short of the story is, I asked quite a few artists to each give me a black swan painting. And one of the people who really got involved in it is Nel Erasmus. I've got one of the black swan paintings that I put here behind me. But yeah, I don't think you can see it now, but we can always show it at a later stage. And she actually made quite a few more paintings there. Now, again, the whole idea of a concept that's been developed in an art is not only, it was more accessible for people looking at the artworks than it was for, it's not, the moment that they can recognize a black swan, then they start looking at some of her other works, her lamps, as you would know. We've also, from the gallery and between different things, we've published a few brochures. There was one called Abstracts from 1953 to 2018. There was also Abstraction into Motion. These I've used to also give to people, to tell them that they can read and see more. And I think the moment that you do that, they can also see maybe it is someone to invest in for the long term. As much as I'm not buying art for belief, one shouldn't buy art for investment, you must buy it because you like it. But this helped them to make that step to start buying her work.
No, that does answer the question, Dawid. I think it's also very important with Nel's work having a very strong academic and intellectual underpin to it. I think producing catalogs like these are invaluable in helping people to understand and get the work. But one thing I think I envy you over the years is the opportunity to have these exhibitions with Nel and then to talk to her about the works that is selected for exhibition and how she sees them. Because I remember the show that we did for Nel in, 2018 as well, in Cape Town, which you helped us with. And Robert did the beautiful book and everything, booklet for the show. But for me, the highlight was, other than seeing all these works together, was actually engaging with Nel to talk about these works, because she's got an incredibly clear and precise way of setting her thoughts out and explaining the rationale and behind a painting and what sort of the what it encapsulates. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your engagement and the journey that you've gone on as an art collector in dealing with someone like Nel, who is so incredibly thoughtful about her work.
This might even come as a surprise to Nel, what I'm going to say now. In the sense that I know, as I said, I know Nel for almost 15 years. But she wasn't always as expressive about her works or as clear as what she is now. It's also as if this whole process, almost maybe the realization that now is the time to speak about the works. She didn't always see that it's very new. I even felt with that exhibition in Cape Town in 2018, that also helped her to almost focus even more and start talking about or explaining. Before that, she wasn't always, unless you specifically prompted a lot, but she's much more open now, much more speaking about the things. And I still want to tell her that if she realizes how she changed in the process, from where she was much more, not secretive, but much more, but the whole formulation of why she'd done certain things in certain ways, that happened much more now later at this stage. But yes, I'm very much into, that's what I also said earlier, where I said to Nel, I can only talk to her now, and then she always say, I don't always look at the paintings. So yes, but I think the two also in my mind one. So if you get to know Nel, I understand the paintings better, and the other way around. If I look at the paintings, I see Nel better. As I said, even with that power, energy, motion, that is Nel, and that is so in her words. There was another thought that I thought I must mention, and it's where I thought how she forever wants to open up paintings. No closed lines, no closed objects, everything open. And I think that is very much also an approach to life and how things are not always so clearly defined. I mean, one's got to life and painting and all these things all flow together in the end. It's not a background and a foreground. It's very much like, okay, the one thing that she always say that she appreciated, I've once said, and I still believe, that one must allow life to happen. And she's always, and again, I think for her to embrace that idea, it also reflects how she feels about life. She allows life to happen and things to flow into each other. So yes.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's very true, Dawid. Just sort of on the side note, in Lizelle and my journey of collecting art for like 30 odd years or so, we obviously met quite a few gallerists and met quite a few artists. We're fortunate to say so. And it's always the relationship between a dealer and an artist has always been very interesting to observe from my point of view. And I know there are almost two extremes. Certain artists are very particular about what they show and they choose everything. And in some instances, artists are very experimental and they produce a lot of works. And then the gallery and they together actually choose what's going to go on exhibition. So where does Nel fit into that spectrum?
Remember, I started out my gallery calling myself Dawid's Choice Exhibitionist. So I always had this with all artists, I decide what I would like to exhibit, because I feel if I don't relate to the work, I can't sell it. I can't. Now, and the other thing I also still believe, and yes, of course I can be wrong, I often think that artists can't necessarily always see which ones are their best works. It's often an outsider that can tell. Even some works that artists sort of just can't say, no, that's not what, and you look and you see, no, it's actually a fantastic work. Now, the same with Nel, in a way, I think the two of us, Nel and myself, it's funny, I've never, she always said, I must have a look and see, and we go through it, and I said, how do you feel? Yeah, but we've got a very similar, it was never really a question of we should include this or not include that. What I must say, the one work with this last exhibition, now which did 90, the one big horse, she said, she doesn't know whether she now really wants to sell it, etc., etc. And then she said, let's make the price very high. And then, of course, one of my clients, somebody's got 2 or 3 of her works already, came and he said, nobody wants to buy it. And then, of course, that became a disaster. In any case, because Nel didn't want to sell it. But yeah. And there's another, my friend Luc van Horten in Belgium, he's also got quite some of her works, and he wants to buy the one work. No. So the problem with Nel is actually more so that she wants to hold on to certain things, that she doesn't want to let them go. But yeah.
No, I can testify to that, I think. There were quite a few that I would have liked as well at the time. But it is always important in life not to have everything that you want. And I think from a collector, that is sort of part of what keeps you going, is that sort of race to find these things that you're really special in your life and that you would like to hold on to. But I think we've more or less used up most of our time. And Dawid, maybe just one or so question more, and that is it. Sort of saying, what would you say going back is very different in dealing with Nel as an artist in your stable than any of the other artists that you work with?
As you, I suppose you can gather, we've got an exceptionally good relationship. We are very close to each other as human beings. Apart now from the Egypt trip, we also did a trip to the Kalahari together with some 2 or 3 other people. So yes, we really do know each other very well. And I think the one other thing I was going to say is, and that sums it up in a way, I can say things to her very straightforward. Like if I now think back to I just got to know her, and she was showing me all these different themes and these different works, and she said, "Now I can't use this work for that exhibition, and I can't use this work for etc. because this is a grouping." And I said to her at that stage, "Now, you must remember, you are actually 80 years old. So exactly how many more exhibitions do you plan to have? But that's the type of joke you can not joke, or you can only say to someone if you know them very well. That's the other thing that one should maybe mention, is how things changed from the time originally when Nel had her first exhibition. Those years, an art exhibition was a big thing. People used to dress up. It's a very big social calendar thing. And that is the one thing that I think was also for Nel important for her to make a mind shift, is to realize that nowadays there are 4 or 5 exhibitions opening in 1 week. So yes, an exhibition isn't what it used to be. It's very different. So that was also something that she had to adapt to, that she had to realize that gone are the days when there was this whole, more fancy, the idea of an exhibition opening.
Yeah, I think it must be an incredibly rewarding exercise to deal with art and with artists on a continuous basis, but it's obviously also very challenging. And I think the pressure that comes on a dealer when an exhibition doesn't go as well as it should, because people are just at that point in time not interested, or they've got other priorities, or they don't get it. And a little bit because we are also involved in the auction business, I sometimes see things and they don't sell, and you think it should walk out of here. It should be one of the first things to sell. And one feels quite emotional about some of these things. And how have you dealt with that over the years?
I think the one thing that does help me to deal with it is originally, you must remember how I've ended up being the owner of a gallery. I've always been collecting art, and then when I was 40, I realized I've got all this art. What now? Then I started selling art and having little exhibitions at my place in Cape Town. And only when I turned 50, and that was in 2003, I started dealing in art full-time. So what was a hobby became a sideline, became a full-time job. But in the process, it was, and yes, of course, I also need money, but it was always because of my love for art, my love for the artist. And again, that's why not only do I choose the artist, I also try to choose the artists I want to deal with. So I don't want to deal with artists that I don't relate to. That. So yes, even if it doesn't sell, yes, that is the art world. I think that's how way we've got to live and accept it.
Yeah, no, but I think in the end, the relationship between you and the artist, and the relationship between yourself as sort of an art lover and a work, are the things that are the most lasting. And it's wonderful that you can look back at such a rewarding time with Nel, and that you've built process also built up a friendship that I know she treasures and values.